So, Shawn,
Yes.
what's the biggest issue facing this city?
I believe it's income for the city. The city is majorly in debt, and we need to come up with a plan and focus on a way to get out of debt. The way I look at it, and why I'm running for mayor of Regina, is to generate income for this city. My whole platform is good health, happiness, and understanding. And we can't get there without getting an income for the city. And the way I plan on getting the income for my city, for the city of Regina, is I would like to get in partnership with First Nations or a First Nations and build more urgent cares, surgical rooms, or a hospital. What people forget is First Nations is a legitimate government recognized by all government forms within Canada. And there already is a hospital in Fort Capel called All Nations, which is ran by 2 tribal councils. So it is possible for us to get into this industry, like partnership with the First Nations in order to have an income coming in. And people might ask, how is that going to get income coming into us? What people forget is every day we've all used Life Labs in Regina. Life Labs was sold in August to an American company called Quest Diagnostic for $1.35 billion. They said they're going to generate $900 million a year in revenue off Canada. And this goes to an American company. So what my plan is to get into health services, but keep this money locally with us. So that way we can use it to keep our taxes from rising. We can use it for the projects that we need. For example, the Lawson. The library that they want to do, the new baseball diamond. Because my whole plan is not trying to inhibit these new things that the city wants to bring, because these will help the city in a lot of ways. So how can we get the income to make these projects come? Because my understanding is these projects will bring lots of good economy to the city. And that's what I want to do without raising taxes.
So what would be a project, since Life Labs is done, what would be a project that would generate regular income that you could do in partnership with First Nations?
Well, I would go to surgical rooms is really what I like to focus on, is because if you look at Scott Moe's plan, like just getting a little off topic from mine, Scott Moe's plan, when he handed out his pamphlets, it says they reduced wait times by 25% for surgical times. That's 75% more to go. And the government wanted to build surgical rooms here in Regina, but then they didn't. So to me, that's an opportunity for the city to partnership with the First Nations in order to get into that industry. So we can start keeping this money locally. And that way, too, another government that is recognized by all forms in government in Canada has the ability to get into this, medical industry service, we can call it, that a lot of other people are getting into. Because if Life Labs is owned by a private retirement fund out of Ontario, and now it's privatized to an American company, it's just going to slowly start trickling over here. Because how it always happens. It happens in a big center first, and then comes to smaller cities later on. So my plan is to get ahead of that jump and start getting these services so we can keep that money locally, but at the same time working with the First Nations, because a lot of my platform is reconciliation, and a lot of the considerations that I want the city to do is always be in reconciliation. So, and part of democracy is taking everybody up with you as a whole, right? So that's why I really want to focus on this, because if we go in partnership with First Nations, we can give them an extra identity in the city. We can give them a feeling of more self-worth in the city by giving them more jobs. We might be able to retain doctors that way, because if it's in partnership with First Nations on reserve lands, we don't have to pay taxes. The Indian people do that are on there. So that way we might be able to retain more doctors or bring doctors in from other hospitals that are not working on reserve land that have to pay taxes on their high salaries, and they can come here and we could be able to retain them that way. And that's one of my main focuses in order to have income coming in.
You mean First Nations doctors who wouldn't have to pay tax? Yeah,
First Nations. Yeah, Indian doctors. Yeah, people who have a status card that was given to them by the federal government of Canada.
And what's your goal in terms of the First Nations, that what they would get out of this partnership with the city of Regina?
What they would get out of it is, of course, it'd be done on their land. And, of course, what they do with their income is their choice, what they do with it, right? Because that's part of First Nations is them trying to build up their own income, and they can use it for their own nation. What they want in the city would take their portions and go. But we would hope by partnership with them that a little bit of their income would come back to the city in a good way to help us with our projects and our programs and help with a lot of the problems that we have in the city.
What do you think, Shawn, is the key to a safe and vibrant downtown?
What I think the key is to that is getting the businesses down there. because it is kind of a ghost town when you go down there, but how the businesses are supposed to come down there, we got to get people who want to come to the city first in order to have these businesses. But how do we get those businesses to come with our taxes always rising from all these projects? No one really wants to come to Regina. No one can afford a business. No one can operate a business and everything else like that. So that's why my main focus is trying to have income coming in for the city. So therefore we can keep the taxes lower. By keeping the taxes lower, it keeps the rent cheaper, it allows people to come in with their businesses, and allows them to afford to be able to do things like that.
And what would how much revenue do you think that you might get from these partnerships that would allow the city to do the things that it wants to do, whether that's a new arena or a new library downtown, pave the roads, all of that, but doesn't end up costing taxpayers too much?
What the revenue of that would come from? To be honest, I don't know what the revenue honestly would be on that, but there is revenue in there. There's lots of revenue because I've been looking it up. I have no idea how much Prairie Medical Sky makes. And even if the city didn't make hundreds of millions or tens of millions of dollars off this, at least they would have that economy in the city, right? And at least they would have job opportunities for people. At least the First Nations would have more of a self-worth with the city, and have a partnership with them, which would just help flourish everything in the city. So even if they don't make tons of money, at least it still gives a sense of identity in this city and helps the people out as a whole, and also helps the government out with their health system too as a whole.
You mentioned that reconciliation is a part of this for you. What does that look like at the end?
Reconciliation, what reconciliation looks like to me is looking at the past and then deciding how we cannot make those same mistakes in the future. And reconciliation to me is bringing the First Nations at an equal business level with everybody else. Giving them that sense of self-worth within the city, right? Giving them that they can grow and expand with everybody else that they can.
Why should people vote for you?
People should vote for me because I have a very outside-of-the-box thinking. My outbox is thinking is about generating income for the city. I know a lot of the other people that are running for mayor because we had a senior a presentation at the Senior Citizen Society yesterday. A lot of the other people don't have any plan to have income coming into the city, and a lot of the other people, when I talk to them, don't have a plan on bringing everybody up as a whole. And since the city is a largely based First Nations population, full of Indian people, we have to think about them and bringing them up, because if we bring them up with us, it'll help the whole community as a whole. That's the way I look at it. And people should also vote for me because my outside-the-box thinking includes everybody as a whole. And it also, like I said, I'm the only mayor who has a source of wants to get income coming into the city, but take everybody as a whole in that income and not just leaving people behind and trying to keep that income locally. So when we have funds coming, so Life Labs here takes all of our money goes to America. My main thing is keeping money locally for us.
Thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.